Kane is in the building.
What is up, everybody? Happy Bills game day eve to the Mafia. I got a great show for you tonight. I got Kevin at K Bowen 1070. He's a radio host at 1075 The Fan in Indianapolis. He does mornings talking Colts every day. He's going to give some great insight for us. He's going to join us to break down the Week 10 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. I have an updated reverse power rankings for you guys. I know that's everyone's favorite. And then I got some player props for the Germany game and then the Bills game. But first up, a couple ads so that we can pay for the show. I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Mackenzie Farms and Happy Holiday Tree Farms, for supporting this show. They'd like to share a message with you all for this holiday season. Remember when we took pride in the things we built, the things we grew? When we put aside small differences to support one another? We can do it again, and it's not as hard as you think. This Christmas, say no to fake trees. They're made of lead and plastic in sweatshops overseas. Choose a traditional, sustainable, real tree grown by American family farmers in every state. The best way to celebrate Christmas is with a real Christmas tree grown here in America. So this Christmas, don't fake it. Go real. That way you'll have a really great Christmas. Sponsored by the growers of real Christmas trees at Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms. Our newest network sponsor is W Energy. W is an amazing energy drink that is made with clean ingredients to give you the energy boost you need with no crash. They also offer an electrolyte drink to keep you hydrated. Hit the link in the bio or go to w.gg and use promo code DUE, D-U-E, and get 10% off your first purchase. All right. First, we'll get into Thursday Night Football a little bit. My overall thoughts of the game, first it was a tale of two halves, obviously, right? And the second half, man, both teams exploded. Not a lot of defense. Baltimore came back from 14 down. They scored 4 straight touchdowns to end up winning that game. But, man, the Bengals dug themselves a big hole. Their slow starts might come back to bite them here. Essentially, they have to go 6-1 or better in their last 7 games to have a shot. I mean, they're 4-6 now. So if they go 6-1, that puts them at 10-7. And then you got to think that puts them in a wild card spot, probably with a tiebreaker. So they're flirting with disaster here. They got at Chargers, tough game next week. They have Pittsburgh at home. They have at Dallas, probably no Dak still. At Tennessee. And then they have Cleveland and Denver at home. And then at Pittsburgh to finish up the year. So tough slate, 2 against Pittsburgh, and they really can only afford to lose 1 more at the most. So we'll see about Cincy. They either got to go on a run here or they're really looking at possibly missing the playoffs. That Baltimore offense is a wagon though, man. When they get rolling, it's tough, man, especially in the second half. You feel like Derrick Henry, he might start out slow in some games, but he wears you down, and when your defense gets tired at the end of the game, he just starts breaking off runs. It's tough. I really think the way to beat them is you're going to need to force a couple turnovers, and then your offense just has to play sharp, give them no extra possessions, and you got to score. I'm not sure you're going to beat them in like a 20-17 game. Like, I think it's going to be something like this one where you're putting up 30 plus and hoping your defense can make a play. to win the game. I mean, look at the Kansas City um, game against Baltimore, the week one, right? Like it came down to Kansas City just holding them at the end, where Lamar had to miss a couple throws. Otherwise, they probably tie that game, and then who knows what happens. So Baltimore's going to be tough. Um, let's talk about the Germany game a little bit. I'm kind of excited. I love Germany. Been over there quite a few times. This one's in Alliance Arena, which is in Munich. Munich's a great city, beautiful. That's where the original Hofbrauhaus was or is. Um, and It's a fun time, man. If you've never gone, definitely check it out. I really hope to catch a football game there sometime. That game's going to be on NFL Network, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Rich Eisen will be on the play-by-play. Kurt Warner is on the game analyst. Jamie Ertl and Sarah Walsh are the sideline reporters. Um, these Europe games, mainly London, but I always look at the travel because I feel like if one team travels early, they get a massive advantage, like a massive advantage. There needs to be a study on like teams that travel at the beginning of the week versus late in the week and their win loss record because it seems like the team that travels early in the week always wins. And you look at the Jaguars when they stay the back to back weeks, like they win that second game because the first game or the team that's coming over has just a way worse rest advantage. So this game, it looked like, from my research, it was hard to find when these teams traveled, but it looks like both teams traveled Thursday night and arrived Friday morning. So there's no rest advantage. I don't like traveling that late. Like I know sleep studies and stuff like that said that that's a good time. You travel over, you get there Friday morning, and then you just act like you're on their time Saturday and Sunday, and the goal is you try to sleep that Thursday night flight. I've done that, and you don't get the best sleep. It's not super long flight when especially when you're flying from the East Coast. It's only like 6 hours or something like that, 7 hours. And so it's tough, man. By the time you get up in the air, get settled, like you're not really getting a full night's sleep, and then you're supposed to hit the ground running when you land. So you're already tired, and then you're at elevation too when you're flying, and so I think you need a couple days to acclimate. So we'll see. I'm probably expecting both these teams to be sluggish. Neither of them are offensive juggernauts either. So we'll see how it plays out. I wanted to touch on a little something that we haven't talked about on this show before, and that's DVOA. So DVOA is one of the advanced metrics that I really like, but I like it later on in the year because it needs data to be accurate. Like the more data it gets, the more accurate the algorithms get. And so DVOA is defense adjusted value over average. It's a system that breaks down every single play in the NFL, and it compares a team's performance to the league average baseline based on situation and opponent. And the opponent part is what really makes DVOA good. So it takes into account like the strength of victory and strength of schedule for the opponent that you're facing. So, if you're facing the 32nd run defense, and you're running the ball, it takes that into account into how your performance was against the worst defense in football, and then it also takes into account like the best defense in football. So it's really cool. It gets stronger and stronger as the year goes on, and it has a really good track record of predicting successful teams, especially in the playoffs and Super Bowl. Teams that win usually are top 10 DVOA in offense and defense. So offense and defensive DVOA are adjusted based on strength of opponent. We talked about that. And it doesn't begin until week 4 because it needs to collect that data. And the sample size is too small before week 4 to know the strength of an opponent. It also takes into account indoors and outdoors, which I think is really cool as well because there's some players that are really good indoor and aren't so good outdoor. And a classic example of that is like a Jared Goff. His splits indoors and outdoors are crazy. DVOA considers all fumbles, kept or lost, because that's luck or random, as equal value. So it doesn't give you more if you lost it or less if you kept it. They're equal because they're both considered bad, and it's just luck if you lose it or keep it. Performance in the fourth quarter of blowouts is down weighted. So when you're trying to catch up, you're playing catch up, you're down 3 scores, and you put up a bunch of stats, like that's down weighted. So that's where I like DVOA too. You can't just stat pad. Um, Special teams DVOA is adjusted for type of stadium. So warm, cold, dome. Think Denver too, right? And week of the season. So early in the season, weather's better, right? Right. Later in the season, weather's not so good. So it's really cool stats. Definitely check them out. You can find them on FTN. It used to be Football Outsiders, but they moved it. But I really like DVOA, so we're gonna start using that. I'll probably take the next week or two and do this definition again, and we'll talk about it just to make sure you guys understand it. But I'm gonna start using that over just straight EPA because this is it takes EPA and it's just like on steroids. It takes way more information, but it's the same kind of stats as EPA. So the Giants are the 24th DVOA team overall. They're 21st on offense and 22nd on defense. So they're not really as bad as people think they are. If you just go by like their record, right? Special teams though, they're 31st. Carolina, however, is 31st in DVOA. They're 29th in offense, but they're 32nd in defense, and that's really been the problem with Carolina. They just can't stop anybody. They're 18th in special teams. Some stats for either side for the betting nerds like myself. Carolina defense, they're giving up the most running back rush attempts. Part of that is because they get down early and teams are just running out the clock. They give up over 28 rush attempts a game. They're giving up the most yards per game as well to running backs at 132.9, and the most running back touchdowns per game at 1.44 touchdowns a game. They give up the fourth most tight end receptions, yards per game, and touchdowns to tight ends per game, the most. They're giving up the fourth most touchdown passes total as well. The Giants' defense is the sixth most running back rush yards a game. They're giving up the sixth most running back rush yards per game. The seventh most running back reception yards per game. And the most yards per carry at 5.2. So both these teams have bad run defenses. Depending on the game script, you could see a lot of running and not a lot of successful passing, especially for Carolina. I do worry about that Giants D getting after Bryce Young and this Carolina offensive line. I do worry about that. So if the Giants get up early and Carolina's got to get into a drop back passing game, like this could get ugly bad, like real bad. I built a little bit of a player prop parlay here. It's all Giants because I just don't know what to do with Carolina, and Chuba Hubbard's rushing lines were just too high for me. So I built a little player prop parlay. So here it is. I got the Giants running back Tracy over 75.5 rushing yards. That's a little high for me. I don't love that line. He's gone over 100 a couple times, so it's not too crazy. And depending on game script here, it could be good. He has been getting over 17 touches in like 4 or 5 games. So there's a good chance he hits that number. It's just that's the one I'm probably least confident in out of these. But I think he'll get the volume. Malik Neighbors over 6.5 receptions. He's done that in 5 of 6 games. Darius Slayton, the Giants' other wide receiver or outside wide receiver, he's out with a concussion. So Neighbors is going to be the guy. No one's really shown that, when he's healthy, no one's really been shown to be able to stop Neighbors. He's just that dude. So I think he'll get volume. Wan'Dale Robinson over 4.5 receptions. He's done that in 7 of 9 games. That's minus 156 odds for that one. The Neighbors one over 6.5 is minus 125 odds. I'm 0-3 on Wan'Dale Robinson bets this year, so just take that into account here. But I do like him going over 4.5 in this game, especially if it stays close. Theo Johnson, the Giants tight end, I like him going over 2.5 receptions and over 23.5 receiving yards. He's done that in 4 or 5 games. So both of those are minus 113. If any of them, I'm most confident probably in the Theo Johnson receptions and yards. If you want to put all those together into a parlay, that's a leg parlay. It's plus 1545. So I'll probably throw a little bit down on that one for the Sunday morning game. Again, that is Tracy over 75.5 rushing yards. Malik Neighbors over 6.5 receptions. Wendell Robinson over 4.5 receptions. And then Theo Johnson over 2.5 receptions and over 23.5 yards. Hopefully it's a good game. I kind of like these games. I like waking up Sunday to a football game. And then we'll be breaking down that game live. We'll be watching it, and then also doing all the player props and stuff and bets and parlays that we're interested in for the Sunday slate on No One to Blame, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Sunday morning. So check us out Sunday morning. 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the Dude Champions Network on all social and YouTube, and we'll be breaking all these down and then live reaction to this game. All right, reverse power rankings time. Everyone's favorite time of the week. We'll kick it right off. Number 32, we have Carolina. Yeah, they're just bad. They're just bad. There's nothing else to say. Bryce at least looks a little better, but I do worry about him against this Giants D-line. They've been eaten. Hopefully Bryce survives. 31, I have Tennessee. Will Levis is back, baby. I don't know what that means, but he's back. He's going to play. So yeah, we'll see how they do, but they're bad. So 31 for Tennessee, 30 for New England. I like what I've seen of Drake May. I've heard really conflicting things. The guys at my work call him Power 5 Bailey Zappi. I think that's pretty funny. I don't agree with it. I think they're very different prospects, but I think it's funny. So and their stats for their first couple of games are exactly the same. So it's pretty funny. New England at 30. I have the Raiders at 29. Not much to say about that. They're the Raiders. 28, I have New Orleans. Derek Carr's back. Olave is probably, he is going to IR with a concussion. That's scary. I worry about his future. Really like Chris Olave, but man, the concussions are scary. 27, I have the Giants. They're feisty, man. They're in games. They play hard. The D line's eaten. It's just, boy, is Daniel Jones bad. If they could just get competent quarterback play, I think they would be at least middle of the pack team. For all the people, all the things people say about them, they don't have a bad squad. So yeah, Daniel Jones. Blech. I mean, signing him to that deal just looks so bad now. Jacksonville, 26. We'll see how long Dougie P keeps the job. That defense, though, is just rough. I know injuries and stuff like that, but they just can't stop anyone. Dallas, 25. Dak goes to IR. We'll see how that affects them. I worry now they can't run the ball. With Dak out now, you're going to be relying on Cooper Rush to throw the ball. It could get ugly for Dallas. Maybe that's the best thing for them. Just lose a bunch of games. They basically need a reset, I think, on that coaching staff and some of that roster. But we'll see. I have them at 25 for now. They could drop, though, pretty quick here. I have Miami at 24. Great, Tua's back, but you're 0-2 with him. Win some games, and then we'll move you up. 23, I have Cleveland. I was expecting more from Jameis in game 2. So we'll see. He needs to bounce back. That team needs to bounce back. They got to rip off some wins or their season's over. It might already be over. But I have them at 23 just because that defense can really get after it. 22, I have Arizona. I still don't know what Arizona is. If any of you can figure them out or decipher that code, please let me know because I sure as hell can't. 21, I have the Colts. We'll see how they do. They're a weird team too. One week they're one thing, another week they're another. I think with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart being back, that D is playing a lot better. Some of the secondary injuries they had early on are better. Their outside corners though are not very good. Michael Pittman injury too, so we'll see with this Colts team. But I think they're a decent squad that's going to be flirting with a wild card. Atlanta is 20. Again, another one of these teams are all bunched together. Like, what are they? One week they look so good, and then another week they look bad. They get blown out at home. Um, so we'll see with Atlanta, but I have them at 20 right now because I really like their pieces. 19, I have the Jets. Another one, right? Like, okay, you looked good in the second half of your game that you had to win because the season's over if you lose it against not a good opponent. And so we'll see. We'll see if you can keep it going. You got no more games to play with. You basically lose another one and the season's over. Um, so we'll see. Jets at 19. I have Seattle at 18. They really need DK back, and they got to get rolling a little bit. That West is going to be a dogfight, and San Francisco's getting McCaffrey back, and the Rams are healthy, and Arizona has already got a leg up in the division with the record. So I worry about Seattle here, um, but we'll see. Their O line's getting healthier, and they just got to run the ball, man. They got to get the run game going. You got to get Walker going, and then I think everything else opens up. You cannot be a pass first team um, and try to win. 17 is Tampa Bay. Really tough with Evans and Godwin. I like that team. I don't ever think they were like a Super Bowl contender, but I thought they were going to for sure be a playoff team and even win that division, and then be, a tough out. But without Evans and Godwin, it's rough. And even when Evans comes back, I mean, it's still tough when you don't have that two-headed monster. Godwin was just so good, and so it's tough for me with Tampa Bay. I don't like the three-headed running back game. Like, dude, just pick a guy and feed him. It's tough for a running back to get going when he's only getting like 5 touches. So I really wish they'd just feature one of them, probably Bucky Irving. I'm not a big Rashad White fan. I don't mind him coming in as like your third down back. Um, but yeah, so we'll see with Tampa. I also don't love the coaching as well. Like situationally, you can see some of the mistakes they make. 16, I have the Rams. We'll see if they can get rolling, man. I think this is a big game for them Monday night against Miami. If they beat Miami, I think the Rams will roll. I think they'll really start going. That D line can get after it a little bit. It's an interesting matchup though. They might have to win a shootout. We'll see if Puka and Cup can stay healthy for more than half a game. I have Chicago at 15. I want to put Chicago lower. I really do. I don't like them. I don't like Caleb Williams. He does not look comfortable back there making good decisions or anything like that. They've kind of been feasting on bad defenses, but their defense can really turn it on. They can, especially against the pass. Their run defense has not been nearly as good as I thought it would be or as it was last year, but but we'll see with Chicago. I have them at 15. I'm probably too high. I don't know. We'll reevaluate next week. I have Denver at 14. Again, another one of those teams like you could convince me they should be lower or higher. Good defense though, can run the ball, and then it's like kind of what do you get out of Bo Nix? Can you get enough out of that passing game? Certain game scripts, I think really advantageous for them. You get them an early lead, and they're going to be really tough to come back on. So we'll see. I think with the Chargers coming on and already beating them, and then Kansas City as well, that kind of puts a damper on things for Denver. And then I think they have a tough slate. I think they have the AFC North, right? So we'll see with Denver and what they do down the stretch. 13, I have the Chargers. They've surprised me, man. That defense is playing really, really solid, good football. And then they run the ball, and then they just ask Herbert to do enough off play action. He could still make plays. He can make all the throws. They don't have the weapons, but they're figuring it out. They're getting a little more out of McConkey and Quentin Johnson back. I think helps because he's still like that vertical threat, um, and yeah, they're just scheming guys open. So you got to give credit to Greg Roman. I don't know if they're like a legitimate threat, but they're winning games, and we'll see. They got a big game next week against the Bengals. I think that'll be a good measurement game. So 12, I have the Bengals. It's weird to have a 4-6 team at 12. Um, but again, we're doing this as like if they lined up against somebody right now, who would you pick? And I think they're playing really good. Like it's hard to knock them for that loss to Baltimore. Um, too much. I think that defense, yes, it struggles, but it stepped up against the run. They've been getting guys healthy on that D line. I still think they're missing a pass rusher opposite Hendrickson, but I like Lou Anarumo. I think he'll figure it out on a game by game basis. That Baltimore offense is a tough nut to crack, man. It's hard to figure out how to stop it. No one's really been too successful, so it's hard to knock Cincy's defense too much. But they haven't been great this year, so we'll see. It's kind of like the reverse of Cincinnati from previous years, where the defense has been balling out and making just huge game changing plays, and then Burrow and the offense has been doing like just enough, or like making one play, or something like that. And now it's the opposite. It's like the offense is balling out and making all the plays, and then can the defense just do something to to stop the other team, and then they'll win. So we'll see about Cincy. I sure don't want to play them in the playoffs, but they don't look like nearly a complete team. So I have them at 12. I have Houston at 11. They got to get Nico back. It looks like he might go. He didn't practice this week, but he came up. They took him off of IR, so maybe they'll give him a go. We'll see. I wouldn't rush him back. I feel like if you're gonna do anything this year, you need him back fully healthy, and to rush him back and risk another hamstring injury, and he'll be done for the year if he re-injures it. So we'll see what they do this week, but without him, that offense just doesn't click. Tank Dell banged up, obviously no Diggs. That O line hasn't been great, and so unless Mixon gets cooking, and then they can just kind of dink and dunk a little bit, they're kind of in trouble. Shroud looks like he's starting to rush things a little bit. He's missing throws he hasn't been missing, and so I worry a little bit about Houston. Will Anderson Jr.'s hurt, and he's going to be out, and so that's a big game changer for them, because I feel like him and Hunter are a lot to handle when they're both in there. You saw against the Jets when Anderson went out, the Jets started cooking, man, like cooking. They could not get pressure on Aaron, and so I worry about that Will Anderson Jr. injury as well. So I have them at 11. You probably ask like why I have them high, like at 11 or so much higher than the Jets. Um, I just feel like I feel like when they're healthy, they're good. And I didn't know when I made these, I didn't know Will Anderson Jr. was going to be out and Nico was going to be activated. So I feel like those kind of almost offset each other. If Nico plays, I have a lot more faith in that offense. And I think if either of them played a full game against the Jets, they beat the Jets. So I have Houston at 11. We'll see this week though, right? Like they got to win. San Francisco at 10. We'll see. What's the CMC effect? How good is he? Is he back to what he was? If he is, then I think that changes that offense, because they really need a guy who can be the focus and be the distractor, right? And then you can get Kittle and Debo going. And they need to get other pieces healthy as well, like Juwan Jennings and things like that. But I think they need a focus in that backfield that can take the defense and make the defense have to account for them all the time. And I think that'll take a lot of pressure off of Purdy and the other guys. So we'll see the effect of him coming back. But I have San Francisco at 10 right now. I have Washington at 9. Lattimore still not in there, right? So I think when he gets in there, we'll see what that effect is on the defense. A lockdown corner can really change a defense. the ability to take half a field away essentially, and a top receiver from another team. I think that's game changing for a defense and what you can do schematically. So I want to see what that effect is on Washington. I think if they can get something out of that defense, then they're going to be a really tough team. They also need to get the running backs healthy. Like Brian Robinson needs to be healthy. Like that power run game really changes it for that offense. And it kind of puts guys in the right places, like Eckler as your third down scat back kind of guy. So I have Washington at 9, but I think they could move up, and I think they could challenge for the top of the NFC. They're going to be tough, man. They're going to be tough. The NFC is really going to come down to health, and then Detroit, Philly, Washington. Um, can Green Bay get healthy in San Francisco? Like it could be a dogfight right there. Like I'm not just giving it to Detroit. With some of these teams. So we'll see. Washington at 9, though. I have Minnesota at 8. Are they starting to get healthy? Hawkinson, what's the Hawkinson effect once he gets fully worked into that offense? They really need another piece. I thought it was going to be Addison, but it just hasn't been. So they need another guy that Darnold can go to on critical downs. And if Hawkinson can be that again and be your 5 to 7 reception guy for 50 plus yards, like that could really alleviate a lot of pressure on that offense. And then that defense, man, like they're tough. They're stopping the run so well, and then they get after guys. So I like Minnesota, man, at 8. I really do. I just feel like they need Hawkinson to be Hawkinson before the injury. I know that's a lot to ask for, but we'll see. He looked pretty good his first game back. Um, Pittsburgh at 7. We'll see what the new pieces do. Mike Williams just needs to be something. Can Russ throw him a couple jump balls? Can he provide anything? I feel like they just need something at wide receiver too. Um, and then they'll have 3 nice pieces with Fryermuth and Pickens, and then Najee running and Warren in the backfield, and that offense looks a lot more complete. I don't know what they're gonna get out of Mike Williams, but I like the swing at least, and then I like the Preston Smith move as well. I think I've always said that that defense is a completely different defense when someone is opposite T.J. Watt. Um, it's kind of like the Houston example. Like, you need 2 edges that can be a threat. It's when you just have one side. It's always kind of like with the Raiders. Like, if you just put all the attention to Crosby's side, like that Raiders D line could do nothing. And and so you need something on the opposite side. So if they do try to just line up one on one, like the other guy can beat them. So I think Preston Smith brings that ability, and also hedges against Highsmith and Urbig, who've been hurt. I mean, Herbig's still out. He's going to be out again. So they just need someone on the other side of TJ Watt to be a threat, and that really helps Watt be more effective as well. I have Buffalo at 6. Um, Injuries, man. It's just injuries. It's, Cooper with the wrist, he's wearing a cast. He's struggling to catch the ball. Like, is he even going to play? Coleman's out with the wrist. He's going to miss this game and probably the Kansas City game. We'll probably see him after the bye week. It's tough, man. Hollins is banged up. He missed some practice time. Samuel, like, what has he been with the toe, the pec, all that? Like, we need him to show up and be something. So that's why I have Buffalo at 6, and then some defensive injuries as well. So we'll see with the Bills. You got to take care of business. You cannot look ahead to Kansas City. You got to go into the Indianapolis and win that game. And then there's a big matchup at home against Kansas City. I don't think that's like a season deciding game. Like, we've beat Kansas City 3 times in a row in the regular season, and it's meant nothing as far as playoffs or anything like that. So I don't think it's like a season deciding game that you have to beat Kansas City or anything. Like, you got to beat them in the playoffs. That's all that matters. The regular season doesn't mean anything, but the Bills got to get guys going and get guys healthy, and so get out of the bye week, and we'll see where the Bills are. But I have them at 6 right now. I think they're a good team. Just like any team, if you're missing your top wide receiver or your top 2 wide receivers, that changes things for sure. I have Green Bay at 5. Again, like, what is going on with Love? What is the injury? Can he just be healthy once? Um, I think that's the big thing for me with Green Bay. I like their squad overall. I like the coaching, but unless he's healthy and comfortable in the pocket, I really worry about him. He just doesn't look like the same. He's turning the ball over. He's missing throws and too inconsistent. But they have the weapons. They have the pieces. The defense. I like the defense, and so I have Green Bay at 5, but I could easily bump them down a couple spots as well. So we'll see. I have Baltimore at 4. Um, I really like Baltimore, man. I do. I would maybe consider moving them up another spot, but this top 4 for me is just on another level. Some people would probably think I have 3 a little too high. I have Philly at 3, and a lot of people would probably argue against that. But I think Philly matches up pretty well against Baltimore. I think with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, now that we know the AJ Brown injury is not serious, I think they're a lot to handle, man. And I think their D line can, they've been playing the run well, and I think if they can slow down the run some, I think Philly can score. You saw it against Cincinnati, so we'll see. That one's tough for me. You could convince me either way that Philly and Baltimore should be switched, but right now I have Philly at 3, just because Baltimore's secondary. I worry about like how long is Hamilton out for. We'll see with that ankle injury. So I have Baltimore at 4 and then Philly at 3. So we'll see with Philly, can they keep it rolling? But when AJ Brown's healthy, man, that team is dangerous. That offense is dangerous. I have Detroit at 2. Um, I worry about their ceiling without Hutchinson in that pass rush. So they got Zadarius Smith. So we'll see how much that helps. But you know, when it comes down to like playoff time, you're playing these really good teams. The D line's got to win, and especially against the pass rush. And so I worry about that with Detroit. That's kind of my only fear with them. I think their offense is fine and can score with anyone. But I worry about their defense being able to get a stop or two. So I have Detroit at 2 and then Kansas City at 1, man. Like, I'm not going to take them down until they start losing games or major injuries. But D Hop looks like a perfect fit there. Um, and that offense looks like it's starting to roll. This is about the time of year where that offense starts rolling, and we'll see. But Kansas City at 1. All right, that is the world famous reverse power rankings on the Buffalo Blueprint. All right, now we'll get into our matchup. The Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts. It is 1 p.m. Eastern time. The game is on CBS. The announcers will be Andrew Catalon on play-by-play and Tiki Barber and Jason McCourty as the color commentators. AJ Ross is on the sidelines. The Bills are currently favored at -3.5. The total is 46.5. So I'm recording this Saturday morning, and it'll be played for you guys at the normal time live. I pre-recorded with Kevin Bowen. What was that? Was that Friday afternoon? So yesterday afternoon. So I'm going to play that for you guys now. Most of the information is up to date. There hasn't been a lot of changes. The only change has been Michael Pittman has been ruled out. So Kevin's going to go over the Colts side of things. So I'll play that video, and then when the video's over, then I'm going to go over the Bills side, give you player props, and then score prediction, blueprint to victory, that kind of stuff, and then we'll close it out. So this part, just realize, is just going to be Colts focused from Kevin. We didn't do a lot of back and forth as far as like the Bills side of things, just because of time constraints. So I'll get that fired up for you, and enjoy, man. Kevin's got some really good insight and some great info on the Colts. Now we're joined by Kevin Bowen. He's the radio host of at 750, I think, right? 1075, The Fan. He's going to be joining us to break down the Week 10 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. Kevin, how you doing?
Good, Jake. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Will you tell people kind of a little bit about you and where they can find you?
Yeah, I've covered the Colts since 2011. They can find me at KBowen1070 on Twitter, available there. So, check that out. Got some written content from the week here, and looking forward to this Week 10 matchup.
Awesome. Likewise. Yeah, let's get right into it. So let's maybe start with some storylines for the Colts. So obviously the switch to Joe Flacco and all the news with Anthony Richardson. What's kind of been the buzz around the team or the feel in Indianapolis about that?
Yeah, certainly that's been the hot button topic. I think for the most part, fans are a bit disappointed that the season they thought they would see their young quarterback, a la maybe Bills in 2018, 2019. That's been derailed a bit here with Anthony Richardson now being moved to the bench for at least the last couple of weeks. I think there's a thought and probably a smaller section of the fan base that thought, hey, Joe Flacco, win now. That sounds great. Look at what Flacco did last year with Cleveland, et cetera, et cetera. And, if I could insert my own opinion, I think it's a little bit of pipe dreamy, kind of wishful thinking, and that, he walked into a Cleveland team that had the number one defense in the NFL. They were 7-4 at the time, so it's not like they were garbage by any means. So, I think that's what people are a little bit concerned about moving forward. It's where are you at? Are you in the, short-term win now boat, or are you in the, hey, I don't care what the wins and losses look like. I just want to see Richardson play. And either he starts to grow and that's great, or you get a clear answer on the future at the most important position in sports. So kind of an awkward time, to be honest with you, where Colts fans are at here as we enter Week 10.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Is it do you develop as you play, or do you need to sit and develop? Right. That's tough. So Flacco so far this year, he's started I think 4 games. He's had one game over 190 yards. So what have you seen from his play this year so far?
Yeah, it's kind of been a tale of really 3 games, and I guess the 3 games he started. He did come into the Pittsburgh game just before halftime and played pretty well to finish off that game. But, if you look at the 3 games he started, I would say one was good, very good against Jacksonville, a pretty poor pass defense. And the other 2 against better pass defenses, or I should say Tennessee, the better one than Minnesota, not as good. And that's to kind of put it simply, specifically to Sunday night. And again, the Minnesota defense, their approach is much different than I think what kind of Buffalo carries himself on defensively, but just a lot of third down misses. And, when you think about the switch from Richardson to Flacco, the thought there is, hey, we're going to play the guy that excels on third down and, can kind of be a little bit more of a methodical passer for you. And he wasn't that in prime time. So I think that's kind of the question mark entering Sunday. It's all right, which Flacco is going to show up? The run game has been an issue with him as a starting quarterback. Is that something that will continue? I know that's a big hot button topic in kind of Buffalo right now, just based off where their run defense has been. And then Michael Pittman Jr., their number one wideout, has suffered through a back injury for the last month. He's tried to play through it. It has not gone well. He's not been at the numbers that he has typically been at. He has missed the first 2 practices of the week. So his availability, his effectiveness with that back injury and a finger injury that was added, dislocated his finger on Sunday Night Football. That'll be something to keep an eye on as we close out the week.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think I would see him miss 2 practices in a row. Now, last week, was he limited in practice, or did he miss practices last week as well?
So he's kind of gone on a little bit of a different schedule. He's pretty much missed 1 to 2 days every week, but the missing of the 2 first days of practice, we haven't seen that. I think most NFL people realize the Friday practice is probably the lightest session. Now, you see veterans sit out Wednesday practices all over the league. You see some sit out Thursday practices and then participate on Friday. Pittman's been a pretty frequent Thursday practicer. So that's why I do bring up it's odd to see him miss Thursday. And again, he's added an injury. The back has been there for a month. The finger is an additional one since Sunday night. So just something to keep an eye on. His playing time on Sunday Night Football really shrunk down to 75%, which is probably the fewest he has played dating back at least a couple of years. So, again, this passing offense in general, and it's a full-pronged approach. It's not just blaming the quarterbacks. The protection wasn't great Sunday, or I would say the protection's had some shakiness in recent weeks. I don't think the pass catchers have been as effective as you would like them to be at the moments of truth. And just in general, you haven't been, very good on third down. So I think all those are areas that Shane Steichen, as the head coach and the play caller, has got to have a ton of focus on coming into Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I have the the Colts is 29th in pass block win rate so far this year. With some of the shakeup in the O line, what are you looking to see from the new center and I think it's a right guard, is that the other position?
Yeah, so they've had an undrafted free agent at right guard, a rookie Dalton Tucker out of Marshall for probably the past month now, and then at center, it'll be Tanner Bortolini, a fourth-round pick out of Wisconsin. He's a guy that has started earlier this season at center before and actually played pretty well. So, that drop off from Ryan Kelly to him, I don't know if it's as immense. Physically, he's more of an athletic center than maybe a powerful center. So, the whole strength dynamic and, blocking some guys, that could be an interesting element to Sunday. But they should get their left tackle back, Bernard Ryman. He missed Sunday's game against Minnesota. I did think that had some impact on just how much personnel they deployed out into a route tree. When you think about they started a rookie at left tackle on Sunday Night Football, his first ever start. He's only played one snap in the NFL up to that point. So anytime you have that, you probably leave a tight end to help a good amount. So that theoretically won't be there coming up on Sunday afternoon. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But again, when I say the Colts have lacked support for a quarterback, I mean that. The run game hasn't been as effective as you would like it to be. Play calling, I think, has been a question mark that has been fair. Again, the pass catchers and creating separation on a consistent basis. And just in general, this was an offense that reached kind of that 20-plus threshold a lot last year, no matter the quarterback, Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew. And I would say this year, especially as of late, it's been 20 or under.
Do you feel like the offense now will shift on styles with Flacco in there now? Like, is that going to be something that might take a little time as far as play calling, play design, getting guys on the same page now? Because it's got to be a little bit different of an offense as far as, the RPO game's not there now and stuff like that. What have you seen so far when Flacco plays?
Yeah, spot on right there. I mean, it lacks the dynamic nature that Richardson brings. And certainly Richardson had his faults. I mean, let's not act like the Colts were some, beautiful, flowing, greatest show on turf before with Richardson. I would say the dynamic element, the multidimensional element has lacked. If you look at their three worst rushing performances of the season, all three are with Flacco as the starting quarterback. So, that is something to note there. Now, again, Jonathan Taylor has missed two of those three. And certainly Taylor, you guys saw it full well in the meeting a couple of years ago, just what he can do. So, that is something to keep an eye on. But, I thought what was so stinging about Sunday night in Minnesota was Flacco really let you down in areas you thought you were upgrading. Again, third down. They were 3 of 11 on third down. They had 3 third downs in Minnesota territory in the fourth quarter of a one-score game. And Flacco missed all 3 of those passes, and one of them was picked off. So, again, that's not – I mean, with Richardson – you would have told me that script before the game, I wouldn't have said you were that crazy. With Flacco, though, it's a little different. So, I think that's the big element coming into, this week of, was that one game? Again, Buffalo is not as exotic as Minnesota is defensively. Does that help you out in that area? I think those are all questions kind of on our mind heading into Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. Buffalo likes to generate pressure with 4 instead of bringing extra guys. So we'll see if they're able to do that against the Colts O-line. Let's see. I'll transition to the defensive side. What have you seen lately from the defense? Because to start the year, they were, you could argue they were pretty downright bad, and then you get a couple guys back healthy, and the defense has looked much better. So what have you seen lately from that defense, and where do you think they've been excelling?
Yeah, I mean, they're not a very exotic unit under Gus Bradley. They're not something that's going to be totally multiple from a front standpoint or even really a coverage standpoint. They've probably upped their blitz level a little bit here as of late. But again, I don't want you to think that you're looking at, again, a Brian Flores type defense here. There is kind of an age-old question now that spans back to really a year plus. Can you beat a quality quarterback? If I listed off the 10 quarterbacks the Colts have beaten over the last year plus, you'd probably want to cry and listening to some of the names that they've beaten here. You're not starting these quarterbacks in fantasy. So Josh Allen, of course, does not fall into that category. So I think that is a huge question for Sunday. Defensively, they've been very poor against the run this year. It's probably been the biggest surprise. They have a great defensive tackle duo in Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. Buckner has missed 5 games. He was back last week back 2 weeks ago. And then Sunday night, he was outstanding. So that is a very disruptive pairing that I think Buffalo must account for.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just in general, the run defense has been really poor. Joe Mixon ran all over them in week 1. Josh Jacobs ran all over them in week 2. Even last week, Minnesota still had a big run game total against the Colts. Again, coverage-wise, they're very inexperienced in the back end. They don't play make a lot back there. They don't get their hands on many passes. So it's been a unit that, you could point to some areas of like, well, they did this and they did that in recent weeks, but Minnesota had 10 drives last week and 9 of them reached Indy's side of the field. 9 of them had multiple first downs. I mean, you don't see many teams have a week in the NFL where 9 of the 10 drives get to opponent's territory or have multiple first downs. So I'm still a defensive skeptic. And again, against these quality quarterbacks, they just have not won these games, period. So, optimistic Colts fan or, maybe a Colt fan that, wants to look a little rose-colored glasses, you could point to some stuff that's been a little better. But, I don't know if I'm all the way there, considering just what the overall effort has been through the first 9 games.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first couple of games, it looked like they were getting gashed pretty bad in the ground, and then it looked like they've been getting better. And then you look at their EPA and some of their advanced stats and stuff, and they rank pretty well, against the run. But then I look at the Bills as well, and then they rank really well in the advanced metrics against the run. But as far as total numbers, it's not as good. So definitely something interesting if both teams can get the ground game going. So what are you looking for to see in this game? Like if I had to say, like, what is the blueprint for a Colts victory? Like, what would that look like for you on either side of the ball?
Yeah, I think there's kind of maybe 2 areas of hope for the Colts, and one might be more of a mindset hope than anything. But does Buffalo overlook you? I mean, I don't need to remind your audience what's waiting next week for the Bills. That is the marquee opponent. It hasn't happened in Western New York very often. So, for that game to be on the schedule, yes, these are professional athletes. You'd like for all of them to take each week, as is. And if Buffalo is going to be the 1 seed, certainly they can't afford really any hiccups. But that is a game that I kind of view it in Colts terms, like Colts Patriots used to be. The Colts probably viewed New England a little bit differently than maybe New England viewed them. And I feel like Buffalo probably views Kansas City a little bit different than Kansas City views Buffalo. So, that might be a little bit, again, mindset thinking. As far as on the field, I go back to Jonathan Taylor. I made a couple of radio rounds earlier this week in Buffalo, and I don't know if the 2021 game is still kind of fresh on people's minds, but Taylor has had games in his career where the Colts have climbed on his shoulders and he has led them. Now we haven't maybe seen that game in 2024, but it's been there before, and could that be there again? And obviously playing keep away against an MVP candidate is an ideal blueprint. So, the Colts have struggled to control time of possession. They've struggled to really control a game run-wise, but could that be part of their blueprint coming up on Sunday? Again, Buffalo, I'm not reminding, your audience of anything new, but obviously that has been a question mark for them. It was kind of interesting listening to Sean McDermott's press conference earlier this week and just the amount of defensive tackle run game related questions that he fielded. So, that element, I think, is something the Colts at least can look at and think maybe there's a chance here. So, again, one of it's probably more mindset. The other one's a little bit more on the field. Taylor has done it before, but we haven't seen it this year. And with 2 rookie starters at center and right guard, again, it's a little different. But that would probably be how the Colts fans view it as, okay, is there a possible blueprint to victory?
I try to ask each of my weekly guests for kind of the outside atmospherics of this Bills team. Like, what was your thoughts going into the year, and what have your thoughts been so far? Because I feel like we kind of get in a vacuum as fans, right? And we just focus on our team, and we don't really think of what the outside view is. So, what would you say that your thoughts were going into the year, and then how the year's gone so far for the Bills?
I'm a romantic sports fan. Let me start there. I want the Bills to win the Super Bowl, if I can put that hat on for a second. And I felt that way, for the past few years and just watching them, make their respective playoff runs. So Josh Allen, to me, strikes me. And again, maybe I got Peyton Manning vibes from back in the day of, the inability to get over the hump and all that. And I think at times the criticism can be a bit unfair. So I thought people were quick to write them off. It just seems to be a team that can be some of its parts. And certainly Allen is the spearheader of it all. But that hodgepodge wideout core, and we'll see how healthy it is on Sunday. I still think there are some nice pieces within that group, and people kind of overlook that. But certainly 7-2 is very impressive. The point differential, that's really impressive when you look at the rest of the AFC as well. So, I think there are some skeptics certainly, preseason wise of like, hey, what about Miami, or the Jets are going to do this, and obviously it's played out to where, it's a bunch of peasants, and then it's Buffalo, and so again, I really like watching Josh Allen play. I think it's fascinating the fine line that he seemingly walks a lot between risk reward plays, and Colts fans are very jarred, I think, still by that 2020 playoff game of. If you go back and you look at, I don't know, maybe even metrics of that game, the Colts maybe even outplayed Buffalo for the better part of 60 minutes. But, Allen just made a few plays of Gabe Davis toe tapping on the sideline, and he's a special talent. And I think, again, in our market, we look at Anthony Richardson and it's like, wait a minute, flash up the first 10 games of Josh Allen's career. And again, that can be unfair, I think, to a degree, but for the most part, when Richardson came out of Florida, he was comped very frequently to Josh Allen based off size, playing style, college resume, lack thereof. A college resume is probably the better way to put it. So, yeah, I think that's kind of always fascinated me as well. My visits to that stadium, I just absolutely love the environment and all those things. So, again, I can be a sucker for maybe the romance of it, but from afar, when you have a player like that at quarterback, you're never that far out of it. And certainly Kansas City has not been this downright unbelievable undefeated opponent. So when I look at the AFC, certainly, Kansas City would be the smart money, but I still think a team like Buffalo, a team like Baltimore, if they can all of a sudden fall into what the Colts fell into in 2006, you never know when it's coming. People would say that Colts team, they would tell you that wasn't the most talented team of that era. They'd point to 05, they point to 07, they point to 09. And yet 06 ended up being the one that got it done. So, could that be Buffalo this year?
Hey, it takes a little luck, as you know, you need a little luck and some injury stuff to go your way. So, if I put your feet to the fire, what would be your score prediction or the outcome for the game?
Yeah, I went 29-20 earlier in the week, Buffalo, and I might walk back that a little bit. I don't know. Maybe you've got a better read on the whiteout injury report than I, but, just with Keon Coleman's situation, and I don't know, Amari Cooper still looks to be iffy. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
he's got a cast on his wrist. He said right now catching the ball is tough.
Yeah, so I mean, you hear that. I mean, I assume Curtis Samuel will give it a go, but
Matt
again,
Collins popped up on the injury report as well, and that's new. That's their fourth wide receiver. So
yeah,
it's not looking pretty.
Right. So, again, 29, I don't know, might seem like a hair too much. I will probably still pick the Colts when it's all said still pick Buffalo when it's all said and done, but maybe the 9-point, score, maybe is a little bit too big. Vegas certainly knows something, with 4.
Here's one for you. This Colts team is the first team in NFL history to go 9 games with one possession games, all 9 games. That blew my mind. Like, that is a pretty cool stat.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And really, outside of Sunday night, I would say they all have been pretty legit one possession games. For those that didn't watch the end of Sunday night, they kicked the field goal late and then did the onside kick, to try and get to the one possession there, a little bit kind of backdoory. But, the thing about it is, and I said this 2 weeks ago when the Colts faced Houston and CJ Stroud, which quarterback do you trust more? I mean, that's kind of what I boiled down. And Houston was banged up. Houston had the O-line situation, the Nico Collins situation. And, what quarterback do you trust more? And that's why I went with Houston. And, I don't, not to diminish Joe Flacco, but, Josh Allen's in a different level. So, which quarterback do I trust more? That's probably why I'll go with Buffalo. But yeah, that injury situation, you bring up Hollins as well. I mean, that's, I don't think anything you can just automatically turn your head at. So, and again, is there a mindset? Is there an overlooking element to it? Sean McDermott strikes me as a coach that would not, he's cognizant of that and is going to try to instill it in a pretty significant way, but human instinct is human instinct.
Yeah, and the Bills have been known to have some weird letdowns. I mean, just some weird games where they just don't show up.
And the Colts just to add one more thing, the Colts have won one of these games a lot. Last year they beat Lamar Jackson. The year before that, they beat Mahomes. The year before that, they beat Allen, in Buffalo. So, even though the Colts haven't been this juggernaut lately, they usually have one of these games, and is Sunday this one.
Hope not for us, but that's why they play the games, right?
Sure. Sure.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate it. You want to tell people what you have coming up so they can listen to you and where they can find you.
Yeah, again, it's KBowen 1070 on Twitter. You can find me there. So have you covered there leading into the final injury report of the week and things like that. So again, Jake, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin. All right. Yeah, thanks again to Kevin Bowen at 1070. You can catch him in the mornings at 1075. The Fan in Indianapolis. So thanks again for joining. All right, so we'll give a little bit of an update. So here's the Bills' latest injury report. Sorry for the print being small, but Keon Coleman's been ruled out. It doesn't sound like he's going to go to IR. Sean McDermott said week to week. I would be pretty surprised if he plays against Kansas City. It'd be great if he did, but I could probably see them resting him there because then you have the bye week rest as well, and you get him back fully healthy. But you never know if his injury is more on the soft tissue and things like that. It could be feeling much better with a week plus off. So you never know for the KC game, but it sucks that he'll be missing this one. At least it was good news and nothing broken, and it didn't sound like he needed surgery. There was no mention of that. On the questionable side, you got Curtis Samuel with the pec. He limited all week. He did play last week, so I'm guessing this was probably just limiting his contact. So hopefully he can play and be something, like anything. We'll take anything, Curtis Samuel. Just give us something. That would be great. Amari Cooper with the wrist. He missed last game. He was seen wearing a small cast on his wrist. Now, I'm not sure if that was like, a hard cast type of thing, like plaster, or that was just like more of like a brace. But he was wearing something, it was small on his wrist, and he did say that he was struggling to catch the ball with both hands. So we will see if he gives it a go. My guess is he'll probably try to give it a go. And we'll see. Just the threat of him being out there is huge, right? Like that changes things with the spacing and things like that. The Colts do like to run a lot of zone though, and so for me, I'm not sure how big of an issue it is not having him out there. But he's a great player, so of course having him out there is a bonus. Reggie Gilliam, hip, limited all week. He didn't play last week, so we'll see if he gives it a go this week. Not too crazy of a thing though. You'd see probably Quentin Morris take any backfield snaps or anything like that, and then mainly special teams for Gilliam. So the other one is Balin Spector with the calf, limited on Friday. Injuries continue with it, man. Just practice injuries, random injuries. Like, dude, just got to stay healthy. But that is big because he's your backup Mike linebacker, right? If anything happens to Terrell Bernard, knock on wood. So no designations for the game, but guys who've been dealing with injuries for the Bills. Christian Benford, wrist. Looks like he is going to go, which is awesome. He's got no game designation. Really big to have him back. Hopefully he's fully healthy. We do not need a re-aggravation or anything from him. He's been outstanding. And then Kyrie Elam is back up with who he said he popped his shoulder out last game, but played the whole game. Was limited, and then full. So it looks like he's good to go, and that's big too. Having two of your top three outside corners healthy and ready to go. And then so for the Colts, the only one for them is Michael Pittman being out. Everyone else is going to play. So Pittman has had the back injury. It's been multiple weeks. The last two games, he's had 2 catches on 10 targets. So he hasn't been effective at all. It's probably just a let's shut him down, give him some rest, and so he can be effective kind of thing. So otherwise, they're healthy. They just put their center, Kelly, on IR, so it'll be a rookie. Let me pull up the Colts offense for you guys. So it'll be Tyler Bortolini. He's a rookie, but he's played a little bit and he's played pretty well. And then the other rookie is the right guard Tucker. He's played okay. He's been serviceable. This right side has got 2 rookies. Braden Smith is a quality right tackle. And then the left side is fantastic. So Raymond has really come on. It looks like he's going to be the left tackle of the future, legit starting left tackle, really good player. And then Quentin Nelson, the perennial Pro Bowler, All Pro, has been playing great this year as well. So the left side is really good. The right side is where the Bills should be able to get after it a little bit. Um, Joe Flacco's been sacked 9 times in the 4 games he's played. Remember, he's only played 3 full games, so 9 times, so more than twice a game. If you get him off his first read, you can get after him. So hopefully the Bills can get some pressure today and get some sacks. They got to force some negative plays here. I think will be really big. So Pittman's going to be out. He won't be out here. They got Alec Pierce, and then you'll see the rookie probably Mitchell. AD Mitchell will probably play out there. He's been really inconsistent. Speed guy, double moves, can really get down the field, but he's just been inconsistent. He's got good hands. He just hasn't made a lot of catches or a lot of targets. Josh Downs, really good in the slot. Really like him. Your typical small stature, shifty guy. And good hands. I really really like him, and Flacco's really been going after him. He's been getting like 9+ targets, 6+ catches, so he'll be one to watch with Taryn on him. And then Alec Pierce is height, weight, speed, vertical guy. They like to really send him vertically, and really good player. But the Bills should match up well against them. They don't really have a true alpha one on the outside. Let's get into the Bills then, the Bills offense, because we got to talk about the receivers, right? I mean, Coleman's been ruled out. We'll see if Cooper goes. I think they'll give him a go, but it might come down to a warm-up thing, how he's feeling. It's tough to always gauge these wrist injuries because, for a wide receiver, like, you got to be able to break press coverage and use your hands. And a lot of it is hand fighting. And you really, you don't want to aggravate that wrist, and have a setback. So I don't know if they'll play it conservative here and keep Cooper out again and bring him back, hopefully Kansas City fully healthy. It really just probably depends on how it's feeling. So if Cooper can't go, then they're really short at wide receiver. Then it's going to be Mac Hollins, Shakir, and probably Tyrell Shavers and Virgil. Virgil was signed to the 53. They've not targeted him or give him a carry, but they've been using him a lot on jet sweeps and motion and clear out routes and stuff like that. And so maybe this is a week where they break out a Virgil carry or a Virgil deep shot. The dude's got legit speed. And they've been showing him a lot on film, but just not giving him the ball at all. So just watch for that. That this could be a week where they give him a reverse or a play action, a deep shot or something like that. Shavers was seen in practice video with the first team offense, so maybe he does give it a go, and Cooper sits and Shavers gets to play, and the Colts run a lot of deep coverage and zone, so. Especially in passing downs, like they'll run 3 deep or 4 deep, lot palms coverage, so their corners will either play deep or shallow with 2 deep safeties. They really try to keep everything in front of them, a lot like the Bills, as far as keep everything short and tackle, and a lot of zone. And so this game is going to be more about Shakir and Kincaid and Hollins and guys who can just settle in the zone, catch the ball, and then yak after. Running backs, catching the ball here. So Cook and Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, and then making guys miss, and it's gonna be a lot of that, like a lot like last week. Can Josh stay patient, and just take what the defense is giving him? I know people hate that saying, but it is really true. Like, just take the easy completions, take the profit. Peyton Manning used to say you can't go broke if you're always taking profit. So just take the profit, keep moving the ball, get first downs. It's going to be that kind of game. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of like big plays unless it's in a big package, play action kind of thing, and you catch the Colts off guard. So we'll see from the wide receivers. Just something to watch. I wanted to highlight that. They're getting real short-handed with some of these injuries. Also, Hollins popped up on the injury report. So let's see. Where's Hollins? He had limited on Thursday, Friday. So he's got no game designation, but it's a shoulder. So hopefully he doesn't re-aggravate that because we really need him to play this game. He stepped up big last week. So definitely something to monitor. All right, next we'll do DVOA for both teams since that's something we're going to be tracking here. So the Bills' overall DVOA is 6th. Offensively, they're 4th. Defensively, they're 12th. And special teams, they're 26th. Indianapolis is 20th overall, 19th on offense, 20th on defense, and 12th special teams. So I think those Colts numbers have been getting better too. Like when DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart are playing, like that defense is a lot better. They're a lot better on a run in, run out, like every down basis. Earlier in the year, they really got gashed, and I thought they've been a lot better since those two guys have been in. Grover Stewart is 5th out of defensive tackles for run stop win rate. It is really tough to run the ball in the middle against this team, and if I'm the Bills, I'm looking to run some of those wide zones, stretch zones, bringing in Alec Anderson and testing the edges on this defense. Maybe some of those crack toss to Cook and get him outside. Will be the game for that. The Colts linebackers are Zaire Franklin. He's one of the top tacklers in the NFL, good player, and EJ Speed. Both guys are athletic, can get after it, shoot gaps. They're good players. I think where you can get after the Colts is the outside corners. Womack's a young guy. He came over, I think, from San Francisco. Like they cut him. He wasn't even a starter. He's been playing serviceable, though, because they've been playing zone and not asking him to play a lot of man. Things like that. Blackman and Cross are good safeties. They've been solid starters. And Kenny Moore is arguably a top 3 nickel slot corner in the NFL, right up there with Taryn and Hilton and some of those other top slot corners. So very, very good player, Kenny Moore. They use him, as Taryn. They as a linebacker, they keep him on the field. If they do go to base, they'll move him to outside corner. They'll take Womack out, and they'll have him be the outside corner, and they'll bring in another linebacker. Their other linebacker is Stewart. He's a good player too, and just makes plays. Their edges are Latu, the rookie, and then Kwity Paye. Latu's a good player, man. Bright future. Got every pass rush move in the book. Kwity Paye is like freak athlete, and so those guys are good. And then the guy who's really kind of a game changer for them a little bit, I think, is Dayo Adeyingbo. Sorry for my pronunciations. He's 15th in pass rush win rate. When he gets going, he can really get after it. The Colts are 19th in sacks. They've had 20 sacks this year. They're 21st in pass rush win rate overall and 20th in run stop win rate. But again, when Buckner is in there and Grover Stewart, they're a much more stout team against the run. So we'll update some of the Bills numbers. So the Bills offense, they're 4th in pass block win rate and 20th in run block win rate. Those numbers have kind of stayed pretty steady. Deion Dawkins is 12th in pass block win rate. I know he got burnt last week by Chop Robinson for the sack. Spencer Brown dropped off the top 20 list. He's no longer in the top 20 for pass block win rate, but he's still been really steady. For the Colts, they have Quentin Nelson. He's 2nd in run block win rate and 15th in pass block win rate. He's been really, really good, and he has been whenever he's been healthy. For the Bills D, Groot is 18th in pass rush win rate. And Daquan Jones, I know a lot of people have been saying he needs to play better, and I don't disagree with you, especially against the run. He's got to make some plays. He's 7th in defensive tackle pass rush win rate. So he's been more disruptive than people think. He just hasn't been getting the sacks. The Bills currently are 15th with 21 sacks. This is a game where I think the Bills need to do a little different. I think they need to do some more simulated pressure, some more exotic pressures and even a couple blitzes, man. I would send linebackers here, maybe even a slot corner, like Taryn or a safety here, and heat up Flacco. I would get after him. Flacco wants to go to his first read and doesn't want to hold the ball, and when he does, he panics a little bit. And I think you can get after the Colts here and Flacco and heat him up and get some sacks. I think the key to this game is getting negative plays, especially on first and second down. I think that's where the Bills are going to have an advantage. If they just let the Colts do their thing and get Jonathan Taylor going, it's going to be trouble, man. It's going to be trouble. Jonathan Taylor can really cook, and he's still playing at a high level, and that's not the game the Bills want to play. The Bills do not want to get in a game where Jonathan Taylor is getting 20-plus carries and ripping off runs, because he can still do that. I think you got to try to get guys in the box and stop the run on early downs, and then I would blitz and heat up Flacco on passing downs. So I'll update the team EPA. The Bills' offense is third in pass EPA and fifth in run EPA. Still really efficient. You saw it last week. Like, the Bills just go up and down on the field, pretty easily and methodically. It's just whether or not they capitalize in the red zone. Like last week, the red zone was real bad offense, especially in the first half. So if they can be efficient again this week, they're not going to have a problem scoring points. It's just going to be, can the defense limit the Colts' points? So the Bills' defense is 14th against the pass and 8th against the rush in EPA. So again, like, that run defense is not as bad as people think. They invite the run, especially in advantageous situations. They want to limit the explosives in tackles. So again, I think when they really want to stop the run, they can. And we'll see. This is a week where I would think they would want to try to stop the run. Like, your biggest threat here is JT, right? Is Jonathan Taylor. So for me, I want to see the Bills get more concerted to try to stop the run this week. It's kind of like Seattle with Kenneth Walker, right? Like, that was your biggest threat in that game. With DK Metcalf out, I wanted to stop Walker at all costs, right? And so that's kind of this week for me. So we'll see how the Bills can do that. The Indianapolis offense is 21st against the pass, or 21st in passing offense and 24th in rushing offense. So the rushing offense in EPA hasn't been great, but yards per carry have been good. They're kind of been boom or bust. Jonathan Taylor either has a 100-yard game or he has a 50-yard game. The Indianapolis defense is 22nd against the pass and 6th against the rush. So I know they had those games early in the year where people were saying, their rushing defense is terrible, and that's kind of that stigma has stayed with them all season. But they've been much better. They've been really good when their guys have been healthy, and so EPA shows that they've been 6th against the rush. So I know a lot of people are saying this is going to be a Cook and Ray Davis running game. And maybe, I hope, right? I hope it is. I hope they get Cook going on those zone carries and wide zones. But if the Bills want to just pound the ball up the middle, I don't know how effective they're going to be. We'll see. It's a very good test. The Bills are number one in turnover differential at plus 11. The Bills have had 15 takeaways and only 4 giveaways. The Colts are number 13. They're plus 2. So they've had 15 takeaways, the same number as the Bills, but they've given the ball away 13 times. So this is something to watch for. The Bills have got to force some turnovers this game, get an interception or 2 from Flacco, punch another ball or 2 out. I think that would be critical in this game if the Bills could get a couple turnovers. All right, now to player props, everyone's favorite. I like a couple in this game. I like Ray Davis over 21.5 rushing yards. He's done that in 3 of 4 games. I think it's just 1 or 2 carries for him. He can rip off, change of pace here, and I think he could do it, especially if the Bills get up early and they want to run the ball late. I like that spot. It's a little risky because of the interior defense from the Colts, but I see certain game scripts where I really like Ray Davis here. I like Shakir over 5.5. He's gone over 5 receptions in the last 3 games. So that's minus 128. Especially against a zone here, a zone defense. I think this is a Shakir game. He sits down in the zone. Josh gets it to him underneath, and he runs. Some of that quick passing game I think really works because the Colts will play off a little bit and give that. So I think Kincaid and Shakir here with those quick passing game. will be nice. So I like Shakir here over 5.5 receptions. And then I like Cook rushing and receiving over 82.5. And then his receptions over 2.5. So why I like that is I think Cook will get going either in the running or the receiving game or both in this game. Again, because in the receiving game, because I think the Colts are going to play off and they like to flare Cook out on those little routes. And I think Josh is going to have to check down this game. I think the deep stuff's just not going to be there and he's going to have to go underneath. So I think Cook will get a couple receptions just like he did last week. So I think he'll get over 2.5, and that is plus 102. And then I think he'll get over 82.5 yards. I think between the running game and the passing game, like I said, he will get over 82.5, and that's minus 114. And then if this is the one I like the least, but I totally could see it hitting, is Jonathan Taylor over 106.5 rushing and receiving yards. I think his rushing number's too high, just for the fact of he's been so boom or bust. But I like his receiving option here too. He's had a couple games where he's had over 20 yards receiving, and he had one over 30 yards receiving. So I could totally see him getting like 60, 70 rushing yards and 30 or 40 receiving yards. We know the Bills against the screen game and against running backs out of the backfield, they've been not good. And then running the ball, I think in certain scripts, the Bills, if the Bills get a lead, they're going to be fine letting Jonathan Taylor run the ball. They'll invite that. Earlier in the game, I could see the Bills trying to limit the run game. So I do worry about just straight Jonathan Taylor rushing yards. But I totally could see him backdoor covering this in the air. But that's my least favorite of these. Anytime touchdowns, I like a Mac Hollins plus 450. With these receiver injuries, he's been good in the red zone. They like to line him up in the slot and run those seam routes. And on broken plays, running the back of the end zone. Plus 450 is just way too high of a number for me with the amount of red zone targets he's gotten. So I love that, plus 450. I also like a plus 2,600 first touchdown for Mac Hollins. First touchdowns are always fun for me. They're super risky, obviously, right? It's anyone scores a touchdown that cancels the bet unless it's Mac Hollins. So, but field goals are fine. So just watch out for that. But it's a fun one. Plus 2,600 odds are insane. Like that is so high. So I'll probably risk a little bit on that. Maybe like a third or a fourth of a unit. But that's a fun one. I like Cook anytime touchdown plus 100. Anytime I see a starting running back like that with plus odds, I got to take it. I like it there. You could take a Ray Davis one as well. He's at like plus 450. But like I said, that interior of the Colts defense is their strength, and so I'm not sure like goal line carries up the middle are going to be where it's at. I can see Cook scoring from like a catch or a run like farther back, like the 8-yard line or the 10-yard line or something like that. And then JT, if you want to get a little on the Colts, his anytime touchdowns minus 140. I think he's going to get the opportunities. And I just don't know what to get from that Colts passing game. We have such little sample size with Flacco, especially with Pittman Jr. out. And so I don't know. I'm guessing a lot of it's going to go to Downs, but I love Terrence so much, and so it's hard for me to say like, to bet on or bet against him and go with Downs, and then Mitchell and Pierce have been so boom or bust, and the Bills do a good job limiting big pass plays. So I'm not sure. I'm sure you could play any of those, and there's a good chance that one of them will score, but I don't know. It's kind of risky to me. So if you're gonna play anytime touchdown, it's probably gonna be JT for me. All right, so let's get to the blueprint to victory. On offense, I think for the Bills is no turnovers. Like Josh has had interception in the last 2 games. You could argue neither of them were his fault, but he's had a couple other ones that could have been picked and probably should have been picked earlier in the year. So he needs to get back to no turnovers, no fumbles. Like this is a game. Take care of the ball. Do not let the Colts hang around. Do not give them short fields. Do not make it easy on them. Take care of the ball, move the ball, and just put points up, man, and put the pressure on the Colts offense to respond. You got to dominate the line of scrimmage in this game. Run the ball. Like, I don't care how you have to do it. Like I said, I really think zone running in this game and some stretch plays, some pitch plays getting to the edge could be effective here. And then I also think some of the gap running and duo blocks on the interior, and you can duo block and shut off the interior on a side and have Ray Davis go in between the edge and the defensive tackles on either side. And I think that could be really effective, bringing in Alec Anderson. So I think there's opportunities here, and I want to see what the Bills scheme up. And I think that's the easy way for the Bills to move the ball in this game is just dominate the line of scrimmage, even on pass plays. Like, get good pass pro, give Josh time, and then let Josh just pick apart this defense. And I think the Bills should have no problem moving the ball. It's just whether or not they can capitalize with touchdowns. The defense, limit missed tackles, rally to the ball. The Colts do a really good job on the offensive line blocking, and JT has been doing a nice job of yards before contact. So he hasn't been breaking a lot of tackles, though, and like he has in the past. So you just got to rally to the ball. Linebackers and safeties have got to come up and make tackles. Corners on the edge have got to make tackles, because I don't know how much the line itself is going to be making tackles. They're going to be pretty occupied with this Colts O-line. So guys have got to come up, make tackles, and limit explosives in the run game. That's my other key, is no explosive runs over 15 yards. You got to make them grind out drives. Do not give them easy drives. Make them earn it. Make them grind it out. Get Indianapolis in third and longs. So some first down, negative plays, penalties, like that's what we need. And get Flacco having to throw the ball on third and longs. And I think that's where the Bills defense is going to be really, really successful and be able to tee off early in the game. And then I think the game script is where the Bills need to get an early lead and make the Colts chase them. Score predictions. I could easily see this, going different ways, but I think it's going to be close. I think the Colts could even, score late and make it really close. But I could see the Colts totally hanging around here in certain scripts. So I do have the Bills winning. This is a game they should win. You cannot look ahead to Kansas City. Take care of business, stack wins. The schedule gets really hard after this game. They have 4 games that are extremely difficult against top 10 power ranked teams. Like, they got to take care of business here and get wins like this. There's no excuse that they should lose to this Colts team. So this is a good test, man. This is a game that the Bills would lose in previous seasons because they would mess around and find out, right? And so take care of business, take care of the ball, and score some points, man. And so I have the Bills winning this game in a close one, 27-23. I could see the Bills defense, though, playing like they did against Seattle, right, and really limiting things and it not being that close. Or the Bills could have a couple turnovers and the Colts could be ahead and the Bills are chasing. So there's some different game scripts here depending on which Bills teams show up, but I think this Bills defense or this Bills team's a little different this year. I think it's a little different attitude, and so I trust them. I got them up winning 27-23. I'd like to thank Kevin again from 1075 The Fan for joining me this week. Check him out mornings for the latest on Colts news. Check him out Monday morning for reactions to the game. Hopefully it's them talking about another Colts loss and a Bills win. But check him out, man. He was great. Really appreciate his time. Next up, we have the Sunday morning edition of No One to Blame at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Join myself, Jesse, and Kevin. We'll give you our favorite player props, parlays, and plays for the Week 10 slate. We'll also go over FanDuel daily fantasy lineups and strategy. We'll get into some fantasy football. We take live questions, so ask your questions like who to start, who to sit. We've been on fire, man, lately. The last 2-3 weeks, we've been cashing crazy. I think I've cashed over plus 10,000 in odds and tickets and a couple parlays. So come join us, man. It's been really fun. We've all been making money. Come join in, hang out, ask questions, tail some of our bets, let us know how you do. It's a fun conversation where we just go around the room between the three of us and we just talk about what we like on the slate and our best bets. It's a really fun time. And then immediate following the Bills-Colts game, join us at the Do Champions channel on all socials and YouTube for the post-game show as we give you instant reaction and break down the key moments from the game. Feel free to comment. There'll probably be a call-in live show as well. And we'll answer all your questions and post your comments live. So come join us, hang out after the game. Hopefully it's another Bills win. I'd like to thank again our show sponsor, Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms, for supporting us. And please remember this holiday season to buy a real Christmas tree grown here in the USA. Thank you for tuning in. Please join me next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of the Buffalo Blueprint, where I will be joined by a Chiefs guest as we break down the Week 11 AFC matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Big time matchup. Please join us, and that one's gonna be a fun one, man. It's gonna be a fun one. It'll be hopefully a preview to another playoff matchup. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Do Champions. And then do the same for me at Jake FB Data on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And I will be posting my plays, my parlays, stuff like that. So please follow along. Tail me if you do tail any of my bets. Please post any winnings and let me know how you did. Like I said, we've been on fire. I'll see you all next week. And as always, go Bills, baby.